So if a woman in the yard randomly shows up, what do you do? Me? Let's just pull out that shotgun, yo. Let's do it. Okay, would I really brandish a weapon on the first showing? Probably not. But if you get closer to that door and you start like banging really harder, maybe. But anyway, a woman in the yard. What's about pretty simple premise? You have a family in a barn. Okay, that's a lie. In the country, woman in the yard. Who is she? And will Danielle Deadwyler protect her family? So, did I like this film? Honestly, I did not. This was an hour and 30-minute movie drag. I won't lie though, the trailers, I was intrigued of like who this woman is, what are they trying to do with this psyche, the bloody hands, the shadows. I was thinking, oh, this might be a cinematic, interesting PG-13 movie. But again, unfortunately, at the end of the day, it was a PG-13 movie. And I would say about the 20-ish people in the audience, I'm going to say not a single one liked this one because a lot of people were just confused with what the movie was trying to do and the actual messaging involved. So talk about the positives. I do think all three actors are very well in this movie. And you can say there's 4 total, especially the husband, but he passed away in a car accident. So it's Danielle Deadwyler and the 2 kids. I think all 3 of them held their own throughout the movie about this trauma, the stress going on in this house, and what they're trying to achieve with this woman. I think some of the imagery in this movie works, especially with the shadows of what this entity can actually do. So I really dug that. And there were some good camera angle movements where I was like, okay, I like the shot we're getting here as well as here. And I did really dig that. But to me, where the story completely fails is the actual message as well as the actual things that occur in this movie. So I might start to get into some spoilers. So just 3, 2, 1. Okay. So the actual woman in the yard is like an entity of Danielle Deadwyler. Because honestly, there was a car wreck. The husband died. She was the one driving. She lied to her kids saying her husband was driving. Sure, I don't know whether actually that really pushes the story to like tell the kids that, or especially the son. Okay, whatever. But she's going through trauma of like, she doesn't want to live anymore. She doesn't want to live anymore. She can't get out of bed. And the son is trying to do the best he can with feeding the dog, taking care of the chickens, taking care of the house, taking care of the sister, while she is kind of just moseying around in bed. All right, fair enough. But just the whole thing of that kind of being her, I kind of got was it the devil? But then I don't think she was the devil because there was just too much dialogue of her saying she was calling upon her and she was kind of confused with where she was and where they're going to go. So I didn't know it was a mind game of she was in her head the whole time. But even if she was in her head, how did the 2 kids see this entity in the yard getting closer and closer and closer? So yes, to me, it is a demon or like the devil in, this form. However, it doesn't correlate whatsoever to what is appearing on screen, to what the kids are going through, to what the mom is going through. Like, it just doesn't work. Because there are so many scenes where they try to, like, connect the dots with, like, the little girl missing. And then the kid just, like, seeing the shadows and seeing the mom going to the sister, even though the sister is seeing the other girl. So there's a lot of back and forth of, like, what perspective and what people are actually seeing. And to me, that doesn't work whatsoever because everything is freaking different. And you're just like, okay, what are we actually trying to prove here? Because if it is truly like the devil telling her to kill herself, sure. But how are the kids involved with the shadows? And it doesn't really explain where if there's light, she could grab you. Like, what? I don't know. To me, there's just a lot of things where it's just like, it's a cool thing that we're going to try to shoot on film and you're going to maybe enjoy it, but I don't think a lot of people in the audience actually enjoyed it. Okay, also just weird things like backwards R. Yes, it correlates to something at the very end of the film, but it still doesn't relate to anything. Yes, little kids write backwards R all the time just because they're kids and they're being homeschooled and sometimes they don't know how to write or draw, but you want to correlate that with something that happens at the very end of the film. Okay, whatever. So I think a lot of people were confused with the end of the film. I wasn't. She committed suicide. Because the whole point of the end is she, or this devil entity was basically like, if you commit suicide, I promise you your kids are going to have a successful and joyous life. But you don't hear a gunshot, and all you see is the kids coming back to the house, and then it pans to like them going in the house with the dog Charlie. Of course, the dog's kind of dead at this point, and then you go and it pans to like the living room, and the painting is backwards. And so I think that's the whole point, is there's a dream sequence as well, where she goes into the bedroom where her husband is, and everything is backwards as well, especially where he is on the bed, the clock, and everything like that. So that's how you know the backwardsness correlates to the end, where she is daydreaming or she is actually dead. So yes, in my opinion, she dead, and now she's kind of in purgatory thinking she's with her kids and dog. But at the same time, do you want to bring the husband involved? But is that too much on the nose for her? Because she does know that she accidentally killed her husband in the car accident. So overall, A Woman in the Yard, yes, it might be visually interesting to look at, and the acting is pretty good, but the story itself, things occurring on screen, really doesn't make sense. The pacing really drags. Like, you were intrigued in the first 15-20 minutes, but you're just kind of confused where the story's going to go. These random outbursts, and just things like, her carrying a knife and wanting to kill her daughter, and it's in a pillow, and just these weird psychedelic elements, to me, just didn't correlate to anything connecting in this universe. So A Woman in the Yard will receive a 1.5 out of 5 with Futons, which equals that 30%. So see, the critics and news scores gave this one. Critics were at a 44% with 50 of them. Audience score of 45% with over 500. Critic consensus: The Woman in the Yard has plenty of spooky promise in its premise and a committed performance by Danielle Deadwyler, but the story's heaven-handed metaphor leaves the room for scares or surprises. I think there is one decent scare in this movie, and that's it. I'm sorry for calling it A Woman in the Yard. I thought it was A Woman in the Yard, but apparently it's The Woman in the Yard. Oh well. 45, 44, 30. Jeez, here's the Blue Futon. Like, comment, subscribe. One of these Butontopia. You Boof, Tony, Snake, watch for a great down. Watch Take tomorrow week from month and year for every single freaking one of you. Peace and love. Peace and love. Like I said, there's a woman in the yard, and she's just sitting there. Call the cops. But if she gets closer and starts banging on your house and wants to break in, that's where you start brandishing your shotgun.